What up, everybody?
All right, let's do this.
All right. I think it's working now because I'm on the screen, you're on the screen. Sweet, it's alternating. So it's working.
All right,
Cool.
all right.
All right. Welcome,
Well, start us
everybody,
off.
to Dinner and a Show live. I'm Brian,
I'm Tanner.
and we just got out of a screening for The Disaster Artist, a film that we've been looking forward to for about 2 years now.
Oh yeah, I remember reading the book about 2 years ago, and I just heard about the making of this film, and I just got really excited. Brian and I are both big fans of The Room. It's one of the greatest bad movies ever made. It's probably the greatest bad movie ever made,
Yes.
mainly because of its origins. The writer, director, producer, star, Tommy Wiseau. What a unique individual.
Oh my gosh.
To say
I
the
was I, I
absolute.
was I was introduced to this film back around 2009, 2010 from a movie review from a critic that I still enjoy to this day, Doug Walker, aka the Nostalgia Critic.
Such
Um,
critic, yeah.
I could not believe that there was a film this bad that existed. So I went ahead and rented this movie on Netflix when they had the DVDs mailed to you quite a while ago now. And my roommate and I, we watched this together, and we just could not believe it. And we were laughing our heads off. It was such an amazing train wreck to see. And I've watched it like five, six, seven more times. I've watched this more than Citizen Kane.
It's a
Um,
film that you can hardly replicate, and that's something I really like about The Disaster Artist, which, by the way, is about the making of The Room and the friendship between Tommy Wiseau and his actor Greg Sestero. There's a prologue at the beginning of The Disaster Artist in which there's all these celebrities like Kristen Bell, Kevin Smith, J.J. Abrams, Danny McBride. Adam Scott says something about like they're all talking about the impact that The Room had on them, and Adam Scott says something like it's fascinating that like people can like talk, go on and on about this train wreck, and not talk as much about the film that won Best Picture at the Oscars or something like that. And because The Room has a lot to leave an impression on, it has a lot to get people talking. It has a lot people, they're mocking it. They're uh, they're like talking about it passionately. Like James Franco, who decided to direct an adaptation of this book, The Disaster Artist, written by Greg Sestero, about his friendship with Tommy Wiseau and the making of The Room. And James Franco sort of feels this passion within him that sort of relates to Tommy Wiseau's passion for The Room. And so James Franco sort of sees himself in Wiseau and decides to tell his story. How do you think he did it? Well, good, excellent, well enough?
I think James.
Anything other than bad?
I think James Franco knocks it out of the park in a performance that is understandably probably frowned upon by the acting directors, the acting coaches in the movie. He portrays just that sort of badness perfectly.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. No question about it.
yeah, just his accent, um, his New Orleans accent. Although in Jimmy Kimmel, he did admit that he was from Europe. So that
Oh, gee, what a shock.
I know, right? James Franco was shocked though because he never admitted it. Uh,
Do we do we know how old he is? Do we know where the hell he got the money to fund the movie to pay for two apartments?
no, and what's hilarious is that everyone else thought that he was going to like all the checks were going to bounce from the set, and no, they were able to be cashed. And so
Apparently his account is a bottomless pit. Is
yeah,
he a vampire? Is he an alien? Is he some sort of drug smuggler?
that and those are questions that we'll probably never know. Even he'll probably take those answers to his grave.
Man, this guy is truly the Andy Kaufman of our generation because, like, actually, you know what? I take that back. That's probably an insult to Andy Kaufman. I think Tommy Wiseau is even more out of his mind. You don't know what's real with him, what's not real with him. You don't know what's a prank, what's like genuine or whatever. And so it's like, I feel like with this film, and with the book, The Disaster Artist, telling it from Greg Sestero's perspective, just basically saying what he knows about Tommy Wiseau is pretty much like the best that we're gonna get because like they're the closest of friends, and even Greg doesn't know that much about Tommy.
Yeah, and yeah, speaking of Greg, I think Dave Franco did a really good job too,
Oh,
at
absolutely. Yeah.
portraying Greg and just the frustration with with being friends with Tommy. Even though Tommy, has been a good, towards the beginning, he offered him, to live in LA with him in an apartment. He encouraged him to become an actor, not give up on his dream. The little pinky promise, that they.
That might come about, but they don't come about, and so they decide, let's make our own movie. Let's make The Room. Tommy writes this screenplay that is, it's something. It's quite something, and and
Is
Greg
absolutely
has a
everything.
huge opportunity and just goes for it, and it just turns out to be something that they didn't quite expect.
Yeah, and it was kind of fun. Like one of the funny things about the movie, like, was that there was a text at the bottom left, like during one of the scenes where they were filming the room, and it says like day 53 out of 40. So they went way over schedule. Tommy was a jerk to the crew, jerk to the cast. I think one of the cast members fainted because she was dehydrated and it was extremely
Right.
hot in the studio.
Yeah. Yeah, the
Uh,
AC was turned off. There was no water, and Tommy is always like running late on like every shoot days, and like the script supervisor, played here by Seth Rogen, has to fill in as co-director because Tommy's so incompetent. And like he doesn't know about like certain like techniques when it comes to filmmaking. Like he actually gets like two cameras, one digital, one for film, and has them like side by side. And
yeah,
uh,
it's really
you
bizarre.
just don't
And
know what this guy's deal is. He
well, I
won't
think,
listen to reason. He only has his own vision. You kind of see a little bit of explanation for that in that he feels so rejected that he just wants to do things his own way because everyone else's way just isn't suiting him. And man,
yeah, I think the film was going that route and helping us understand Tommy because he's just been rejected so much by Hollywood, by agents, by producers, by directors, casting coaches, acting coaches.
actually get James Franco his major boost in his career with Freaks and Geeks. Isn't that
Yeah,
ironic?
yeah, and so Tommy had to, when he finally was able to get a movie off the ground, he's like, no, everything that's in the script has to be spoken that way. It's got to be shot my way. We're not going to change anything because this is how I want it.
It's a real Hollywood movie. It's a real Hollywood movie.
Yeah, no Mickey Mouse, no Mickey Mouse. um, but yeah, that Tommy just felt like he had to do it that way because he just didn't want to be told what to do, what he couldn't do.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think the chemistry between Dave and James Franco was great. I didn't really see them as brothers on set or on screen. I saw them as Tommy and Greg.
And you feel
Just
connection.
having.
And I think casting brothers as those two friends who are kind of opposites, but also sort of similar in certain ways, I feel like that helps bond the connection really well.
Yeah, I think it was a risky move, but I think it was pulled off. They pulled it off, and it was a fantastic casting choice.
Okay, now let's talk about the what's really going to bring people in, like especially those who are fans of The Room. How do they handle reenacting the most popular scenes in The Room? I thought they handled it really well, and you actually get to see side by side comparisons between like, the actual scenes of The Room and the reenactments. And man, the attention to detail there is just brilliant. I want to give a shout out to the cinematographer Brandon Trost. He's actually the cinematographer for executive producers Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg's other films. This Is the End and The Interview, and this is probably among his best work.
Oh yeah, yeah. The reenactment scenes are quite uncanny, and it
Yeah.
was really a really good shot for shot remake of the scenes. Obviously, it's not like perfect, and it's mostly the actor's fault, not the cinematographer's fault,
Yeah, the lighting,
because it's just
man.
yeah, because it's just impossible to like almost impossible to like verbatim talk the exact way that the cast did. But that's not
Well,
really
we know that. We know that.
that's not really it was just seeing them reenact those scenes was absolutely hilarious. And
Oh yeah,
Grant,
absolutely. It's just fun seeing all these the celebrities like Jackie Weaver, Josh Hutcherson, Zac Efron. You know, Ari Grainer, who I'm not usually a big fan of, she does a really good job. But Juliette Danielle, who plays Lisa, who gets totally humiliated by Tommy's antics, pointing out her body acne during a sex scene. How low can you get, man?
Yeah, it does. This movie doesn't shy away from the stuff that Tommy did. Like I said earlier, he was a jerk to the crew and the cast, but I think the movie did a pretty good job at saying, yes, this guy pursued his dreams, but he was sort of a jerk too. Um, for the casting, I will say that while I didn't see James and Dave Franco as James and Dave Franco, it was, and I'll even give Seth Rogen a pass. I didn't really see Seth Rogen as Seth Rogen that much, but I saw Josh Hutcherson as someone in a wig. I saw Zac Efron as a guy with a beanie and a little goatee and mustache. So some of the casting choices were a little uncanny. It just felt like a bunch of friends, making a movie together. But
Yeah, basically.
but I mean, it wasn't too bad, and it wasn't like, it's not even a bad thing, because it's like the making of a movie. So I think it could sort of get away with that. It's not like Ed Sheeran in Game of Thrones or something like that.
Okay, how do we get to that? Okay, I think this is the movie that James Franco was probably born to make as a director, because as a director, he hasn't gotten a very good reputation. And I did see at least one of his films, In Dubious Battle, that came out earlier this year, and it was just mediocre. It was a little unfocused, a little all over the place. I haven't seen any of his other films, but like from what I've heard from some people, I'm not really missing much. But I feel like with The Disaster Artist, he probably made the film that he was born to make because he does have this passion for the room, which he stated in interviews, and actually has a quote in the Disaster Artist book here. Let's see here.
All
He said
right.
on Vice, okay, a great portrayal of hopefuls coming to Los Angeles to pursue their ambitions, and an even greater examination of what it means to be a creative person with a dream and trying to make it come true. In so many ways, Tommy c'est moi. JamesFrancoVice.com.
Pretty nice. Yeah, if you guys haven't read The Disaster Artist, go read that. It's the funniest book I've ever read.
It's a very engaging.
Yeah, it's very engaging. And speaking of just books, the writers of this movie, we reviewed 2 of their movies already, 500 Days of Summer and The Spectacular Now.
Scott Neusner and Michael H. Weber. Those are their names.
Yeah, they're both fantastic writers, and those 2 movies were fantastic movies. One of them making a top 10 list of favorite films of all time. And this was on par with those works in just terms of how great it was. I enjoyed it. It was hilarious. I think the crowd was very responsive in my screening. We were laughing hysterically whenever James Franco would do his impression of the laugh.
When the end credits came up, everyone was just applauding. They were clapping, they were cheering, they were like, "Yeah, woo!" One of them was me. I had to admit.
Oh my gosh, Tommy Wiseau is almost unrecognizable with his mustache and really short hair.
Spoiler alert!
Oh, James Franco spoils it in his interviews. It's okay.
Oh, jeez. All right. End credit scene. Don't miss it. Stay after the end credits. Those who are watching.
Yeah. For those who are invested in the room, it's quite a treat. So I'd stay for it. I guess in final conclusion, this film was fantastic. Loved almost everything about it. I don't have any really big complaints at all. Just more, things to observe really than anything. I'm giving this film a secret handshake. I think at the Oscars it's going to get a Best Picture nomination. It's going to get a Best Adapted Screenplay nomination, and I think there's a strong chance that James Franco could win Best Actor for his portrayal. We'll see. Yeah, we'll see, because there's definitely a lot of competition, especially like Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill and Tom Hanks in The Post. Say what? I've not seen that yet.
Okay,
I've
so
heard.
you're just going by what other people say. Okay. I think The Disaster Artist is a film that is about following your dreams. I mean, that's obviously the most cliche thing that most critics would say about, a film like this. Okay, not exactly a film like this, but something similar. I think it's also, more importantly, a film about if you can't do what you enjoy, you have to enjoy what you do. Tommy Wiseau didn't exactly get the response that he expected from The Room, but he learned to embrace it. And even though he's sort of fudging things a little bit by saying, "Oh, it was always meant to be a comedy," I think he still embraced that. The Room still has this fan base. People are loving it. People are talking about it today. It's been 14 years since it's been released, and now we have The Disaster Artist, which is embracing it even more. It's a great film. I'm giving it a secret handshake as well.
That's pretty awesome. I'm glad that a film that we've been anticipating for over 2 years
Yeah,
had us leaving the theater with big smiles on our faces and wanting to watch this movie again.
absolutely. Now, if you excuse me, I'm going to. Crap, where the hell did it go? Oh, here it is. If you excuse me, I'm going to toss around this football.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. All right. Well, I'll let you go toss your football.
All
And
right.
until next time, I'm Brian,
I'm Tanner
and we will see you
at the movies.